Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a recap of Striking Out Season 1, Episode 2. Okay, so it opens with Tara. She's at home. From what I can gather, it's probably a few days to maybe a week before her wedding. And so it's the morning time. She's kind of laying in bed. She's staring at her wedding dress. And so she receives a phone call from old friends, basically letting her know that their father had passed away. And so she, goes to the wake, which is held at the home. And the home, I believe, has some architectural importance. And so she walks in, and of course she meets with the sister. She offers her condolences. And then Irene, her mother, walks up with her bullshit, right? So Irene is basically, going on about the architecture of the home and how, it must take a lot of hard work and dedication to keep up a place like this. And basically, you can switch out home for relationship or marriage. She's basically, in her own way, still campaigning for Tara and Eric to get back together. So, of course, that didn't go over well with Tara, and she storms out. And of course Tara's father is standing there just looking at her mom, and of course she's sitting there like, what, like she don't know the bullshit that she just pulled. But okay, so Tara's out, she's walking the grounds, and who shows up? Eric. So at this point, it's not clear what connection Eric has to this family, but he's there nonetheless. And they have a little small talk outside, and then they hear some commotion going on inside the house. So they find out that the father of the two women, he wanted his will read at the wake. And so they found that he has two daughters, Eva and Ada. He left everything to Ada, even though Eva is the one who's been living in the house with her husband Sean and their two children. So you can only imagine the conflict that's about to ensue over this property. Because Eva feels like, they've been there doing the work, kind of keeping the property up, taking care of her sick father, and she feels like she's kind of drawn the short straw. And so you flash back, the next scene is basically Tara back in her office in the back of the coffee shop, and Eva walks in with some paperwork, and she is basically asking Tara to represent her, because Ada is attempting to evict her and her family. And of course, Tara is hesitant to get involved because these are both her friends. They're sisters, but they're both her friends, and she really doesn't want to get involved. Family disputes, especially when finances are involved, gets very messy, gets very ugly, and she just basically doesn't want any parts of it. And basically, the claim is that they're planning on making architectural changes to the house, and they've been kind of selling furniture off. I don't know if they've been considered antiques or whatever the case may be, but they have been taking stuff from the house and basically selling stuff that's in the house. And Tara eventually realized, so she takes the case, but she realizes that there's going to be a scheduling conflict, because Ray still has outstanding pending charges. So Ray has to go back to court to deal with his case. And his case is basically his adopted father was receiving benefits from the state, and after his father died, he was still collecting the benefits, upwards of £30,000. So he still has to go back to court. And so Tara knows that she can't do both. And so she asks Vincent to step in to represent Ray, basically. And he took the case. So, and she was able to, so now she's able to kind of focus on this whole situation with her two friends. So she calls on Meg once again, the investigator, to kind of investigate the claims of Ada's claims that Eva and Sean are planning on making changes to the property, and that they've been selling off items from the home. And so you kind of flash back to, Eric then calls Tara and tells her that they need her to come into the office because Tara basically walked off the job. And so they need her to come in so she can officially transfer her old cases to another attorney. And so during they set up a time, and she goes in. She sits down. She's sitting with the attorney, who I guess at one point she thought was her friend, but quickly found out that no, we're just work colleagues. So, because she was trying to make small talk with the woman, and the woman was just cold and really didn't have a whole lot to say to her. And so after that was all wrapped up, Ray walks in and basically start the reminiscent game about, oh, you remember when we sat here, our first case, and basically trying to soften her up so he can kind of weasel his way back in. But while that whole conversation was taking place, Eric's mother walks in with all her, oh, you poor thing, I am so sorry this happened to you. But basically, what, we're going to fix this. It's okay. We're going to make this right. It's going to be, so they're still campaigning. Everybody's still campaigning for this wedding to take place. And so after that whole, and then you can see kind of something clicks in Tara's brain, like, okay, this was a fucking ambush. So yeah, you asked me to come in to, do this damn paperwork, but this was all, you had ulterior motives. And so what sealed it for her was, while his mother was going on and on about, oh, this is just so terrible, I'm sorry the way my son treated you, then all of a sudden Richard walks in, who's Eric's father, and he walked in basically expecting to hear all is well, the wedding is going to move forward. They were able to fix things. But basically, Tara was basically like, fuck y'all. I'm not getting married today, tomorrow, next month. It's not going to happen. And she basically whipped out her checkbook. And she wrote a check to cover some of the cost of the wedding. And she basically stormed out. And, of course, Eric ran behind her. And she basically said this was an ambush. And he, of course, tried to deny it. But it was obvious. And, she stormed out and basically was like, I'm just done. I'm over it. And I have nothing else to say to you. And so it flashed to Vincent and Ray, because now Ray is at Vincent's home. And Vincent is basically going through his case. They're kind of making small talk. He's asking him questions about, the crime. And he's basically trying to get Ray to plead guilty. And so Ray is like, well, no, you don't plead guilty. You plead not guilty. And basically, Vincent is trying to convince him that they have evidence of you getting these benefits and cashing these checks or whatever the case. So there's no way that you can plead not guilty. And so while they're doing this whole back and forth, Vincent trying to convince Ray the best option he has in his case, it then goes to Meg. Meg actually finds out where these items are going that's being sold from the house. And actually, while she's there, Sean storms in, who's Eva's husband, and he kind of jacks up the owner. I'm assuming that's the owner. And he said, we had a deal. You weren't supposed to say anything. This, that, and the third. And basically, the owner is basically trying to cover his own ass by doing a check, which is, I'm assuming, how Ada found out. He was like, I had to make sure that these pieces weren't stolen. And basically, he said the deal is off. And so they really didn't go into what that deal was. But basically, he said the deal was off, and Sean stormed off. Okay, so Tara is back at... Tara actually receives a phone call. Okay, yeah. Tara actually receives a phone call from Eva asking to meet with her. And so she meets with her at the beach. And then, surprise, surprise, who else is there? Ada. So Tara is basically like, we can't do this, because technically she's opposing counsel. So she's not supposed to be meeting with the other client without their attorney, legally. And so this was just a bad situation. And basically, Eva's trying to convince Ada that nothing, untoward is happening, and that they're not trying to make changes, and basically because Tara, at this point, she was speaking to them as a friend, not as a lawyer. And she was basically saying, maybe you guys should consider mediation to iron these things out, because once you make this a legal battle, it becomes part of public record. I mean, it's something that doesn't go away. And so while they're talking, where they think she could be making some headway, Ada receives a phone call. She gets pissed off. She's like, come on, kids. So she's grabbing her kids and she's leaving. Tara's saying, like, what happened? And Ada basically said, you need to ask her husband about that. So I'm wondering if the guy called her. She got another call from the guy about some other stuff. that was taken from the house. And she was basically like, you need to talk to her about that. And so it flashes to, I don't know, it's just a scene. Vincent is coming home. He tries to use his key. And his wife has changed the locks. So he looks in his wallet and he's like, damn, she took the credit card too. So basically, his marriage has been in trouble. So all the times that Tara have been asking him, I forget his wife's name. He's always made some excuse. Oh, she's at Pilates, or she's doing this, or she's doing that. Basically, their marriage is in trouble, and he basically didn't want to say anything. But at this point, she's basically kicked him out of the house. Literally, kicked him out of the house. Yeah. So he has to go somewhere. He has to be able to go somewhere for the night because she took the credit card, so he couldn't go to a hotel. So he goes to Tara's office, or such as it is, in the back of the coffee shop, and that's where he's going to stay that night. But then, all of a sudden, you hear this noise, the light flicks on, and that's when you find out Ray is also staying there because he doesn't have anywhere to go either. And so they end up going to a local bar and having drinks and basically talking, just trying to get to know each other. And I think he's really trying to get to know Ray and kind of get a feel for him. And so at some point they have a blow up and it kind of blows over. And so Tara is meeting with Eva at the house. And she's basically asking her questions about the claim. And basically she's trying to get Eva to swear that they are not making any architectural changes to the house and that these claims are absolutely false. She actually makes Eva, she signs a legal document basically saying that no, we're not planning on making any architectural changes. You know, the whole thing. Basically discounting all of Ada's claims. And she says that she was promised the house. Her father promised her the house, and basically Tara was asking her, do you have any proof of that? And she said, yes, the nurse who was taking care of our dad heard him promise me the house. And so, of course, now the task is trying to find this nurse. So, but Meg is on the case, and she does find the nurse, but unfortunately, the nurse has since passed away. And so you find out going forward, you almost start to question whether or not the nurse actually heard that, and it's gonna make sense to why I said that. So Meg and Tara is back at Tara's office, kind of going over the financials, and they find that the financials, as a lot of their charges are kind of within a certain area, and so they go, I guess, and stake the place out, and that's when they see Sean, and he's meeting Ada, Eva's sister. And so, of course, Sarah's like, what the hell is going on here? And so they sit down, and Ava basically explains to her that yes, her and Tom had sex once, and basically that Tom is not a good guy, and that she's known for a while that he's been taking stuff from the house and selling stuff, but she didn't say anything because basically she wanted to keep an eye on him, and he doesn't feel like he's any good, she doesn't feel like he's with her sister for the right reason, and basically all of the things that she's doing is in an attempt to protect her sister, but because her sister is so in love with Sean, she's never going to see it that way, so that's why she's taking the path that she's taken, as far as taking the legal action to save the house from Sean, basically. And so Ada basically said, you can tell Eva about that you found information that Sean had been unfaithful, but you don't have to tell her that it was with me. And so it's like Tara is like, God damn, it's like she's just going from one bad situation to another, right? And so Ray ends up meeting Vincent at work, and he's, but in an attempt to kind of open up, he's like trying to connect with Ray on some level to get Ray to open up, to trust him, because he really needs Ray to plead guilty so that he can do his job by getting him off, because if you go in there and lie, it's going to make it that much harder. Tara is back at the house with Eva, and she's basically having another conversation with her about these potential alterations to the house, this, that, and the third. And she basically said that, I found out that, Sean was having an affair. And this is when Eva basically says, yeah, I know, with Ada. So she's known this whole time that Sean has slept with her sister. And so, of course, Sarah's like, well, why didn't you say anything? And she was like, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to embarrass Ada. But she knows about it. And she basically said that she's not leaving Sean. And so, and fast forward, Ray now has his day in court. And so they're walking in, and it's basically up in the air what's going to happen. On this same day, you flash to Tara and Eva and Ada. So they too are having their time in court. And so Richard walks up and hands Tara an envelope, basically, and this is an affidavit of something other. I can't remember what it was. Ada was already in the courtroom, and so Tara had to walk in and talk to the solicitor, the person who was actually representing Eva, to let her know that she had just received this document from the firm. And so, like, shortly before the case is supposed to start, they're just now getting this document. And so the judge, who seemed like that she has no patience, like, you got 20 minutes to go over this document and dispute whatever it is that you need to dispute. And so she goes out into the hallway with Eva and Sean, opens the envelope, and she sees the freaking photos of Eva and Sean knocking down walls in the house. And this is after she signed a legal document basically saying that they're not planning on making any architectural changes. And she basically just flat out lied to Tara. She lied to the courts. And once Tara saw that, she blew up. She was pissed. She was like, you lied to me. I put my name on an affidavit or some document basically saying that I knew that you guys had purchased the tools, but that you didn't plan on using them. So it makes Tara look bad. And because they're friends, she didn't do her due diligence and do the kind of research that she would have done had it been a stranger, because she trusted her friend, and she trusted that her friend was being truthful. So basically, after seeing that, she knew that their case was in the toilet, that there was no chance in hell that Eva and Sean was going to win that case. And so that's basically what happened. The judge came back and in favor of Ada and basically said that Eva and Sean was going to be evicted. I don't remember her saying a specific time, but at that point, Eva breaks down and basically says, if you want me to leave Sean, I'll leave Sean. And of course, Sean is sitting there like, what the hell? So he's basically taking it back. He's sitting there looking like boo-boo the fool. And basically, the judge, like that, I mean, that's pretty much it. Your case should have never been defended. It's a bunch of lies. And basically, you guys are going to have to leave the house. And so they're sitting out just outside the courtroom, trying to get themselves together. And Sean walks over to Eva and like, were you really serious when you said you were going to leave me? And basically Eva was like, I just don't feel like dealing with this right now. Sean storms off. And basically, at this point, Ada is ready to sit down to do mediation. Because the goal was never to hurt her sister or to... Obviously, she doesn't want to see her sister and her nieces and nephews on the street. The goal was to get Sean out of the way because he just ain't shit. And she didn't want... like I said, she didn't know Sean's motives. Like, she just didn't want her sister getting caught up to mess with her husband. So, basically, she's now ready to sit down and do mediation. And basically they work something out where Eva and the kids can stay in the house. Okay. So Tara's back at the coffee shop. And Vincent walks in, initially by himself. And she's like, oh my God, Ray. And she just assumed that he had lost the case. And Ray was basically on his way to the nearest jail cell. And then Ray walks in and it's a big celebration. And of course his release is contingent upon he still has to keep full-time employment. And so she basically had to break the news to him because he had been doing odd jobs for her and she had been paying him. And she basically had to let him know that she basically had to pay for the wedding and all these other expenses, and she really didn't know how long she'd be able to employ him. And so all he could think about was like, you paid for the wedding? And so I was like, okay, party time. So they paid for the stuff, so they got the wine, the champagne, and the cake, and the hors d'oeuvres or whatever else, and they had them a nice little party at Tara's friend's house. Eric eventually shows up. She goes outside to talk to him. And he basically admits that it was an ambush. And, he stayed long enough for the clock to strike 12, I guess. And that would have been their wedding day. And so they basically, said what needed to be said. And they parted ways. And that's basically how it ended. So, a good episode. Like I said, I'm going to try to upload this season. I'm going to try to upload the next 2 episodes, like one a day, because this series also already has the second season up. So I think once I get to the second season, I'll do weekly uploads. But because this is the first season, it's only 4 episodes. I think I'm going to try to get them all up this week. So I am going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.